Come on, move already. So slow. I am going to be late again.
Does this sound like your typical commute?
The boss is gonna kill me. Sure, just cut me off, you.
Let's be family friendly here.
Wait, who said that?
That's not really important. Would you like your commute a lot less disastrous?
Yeah, I could use that.
Well then, let me adjust your dial.
Introducing the Road Tripping Podcast. Just sit back and relax while our hosts Dean and Molly entertain you with trivia, history, true crime, the paranormal, and much, much more. All in the hopes that your commute will suck just a little less.
Heyo, trippers, and welcome to the Road Tripping Podcast, where we strive to make your commute suck less. I'm your host, Dean Ward, and as always in studio with me is the lovely Molly Malloy. We appreciate you tuning into the show so you can tune out the craziness that is your commute. With that said, let's go to Molly for today's show introduction.
Dean, I have changed my mind.
Molly, what do you mean you've changed your mind?
Well, last night after we finished up the production meeting, I headed home as usual.
I hear a but coming.
But it took me forever, Dean. I thought moving within 10 miles of the studio would make for an easy commute. But wouldn't you know it, I hit every single stoplight, all on red, all the way there. All 9 of them. It literally doubled my commute time, even at 9 o'clock at night, which gave me time to think.
Okay, but now is not the time.
Nope. I am making an executive decision and changing today's show. I've already done all the research. See?
Okay, well, shouldn't we at least...
Dean?
Okay. Let's roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you today's topic. Those pesky commute delaying when you're already running late, changing to early, blinking out a cycle, no right on red, allowing stoplights. That always seems to be the case, right? Just another headache to include in our daily lives. They seem to serve no purpose other than just to slow us down and bunch us up when we're already in a hurry, right? Well, trippers, that is where we would be wrong. But to get in why we are wrong, we first need to get some history laid out to set the scene. Imagine, if you will, London 1866. The narrow streets, the throngs of pedestrians, the overabundance of horse-drawn carts supporting the ever-expanding population, and the death from accidents. That year alone saw more than 1,100 people killed and 1,300 injured on the roads of London from traffic-related accidents. Something needed to change. Enter John Peake Knight, a railroad manager and inventor who, using experience gained as a railroad traffic manager of the Southeastern Railway, developed the first traffic light system. His system used semaphores during the day and a natural gas-powered red and green light at night. For those of us without any military or scouting experience, like me, a semaphore system means a communication over long distances with visual signals such as flags, disc, paddles, or bare hands. In the case of Knight's stoplight, it was a paddle operated by a policeman, letting drivers and pedestrians know when to stop or to use caution. Knight's system was installed on December 9th, 1868, near Westminster Bridge, at the intersection of Great George Street and Bridge Street. However, it was short-lived. A gas leak developed in less than a month, causing one of the lights to explode, severely injuring the policeman operating it. As a result, it was taken out of service, and London did not see another traffic light again until the first electric light in 1929. Here in the U.S., there was a flurry of inventors who developed numerous different systems and designs for traffic control, but none truly caught on. For instance, Salt Lake City police officer Lester Wire mounted a wooden box with colored lights to a pole in 1912. The first electric light was installed in Cleveland, Ohio, on the corner of Euclid and East 105th Street in 1914, though still operated by a policeman. Probably one of the most prominent ideas developed was that of an African-American inventor and activist, Garrett Morgan, who received a patent on a T-shaped design in 1923 that he later sold to General Electric.
Fun fact. Although some localities dispute its claims, Asheville, Ohio claims to be the home of the oldest working traffic light. This light was in continuous service from 1932 until it was taken down, refurbished, and placed in the local museum in 1982.
The first automated interconnected system started to appear in 1922, with the first being in Houston, Texas. This installation used timers in an effort to replace the policemen that operated the lights manually up to that point. They quickly found that solely using timers for the automobile traffic didn't work well because drivers knew how long the timers lasted and often jumped through the lights in an unsafe manner, causing accidents. That is why today the only constant timers allowed in traffic control in almost every state is a timer for pedestrian crossings. These systems did manage to save localities money, though. New York City, for example, was able to replace 5,500 officers with an automated system in 1922 that saved the city $12.5 million, or the equivalent of $191 million today. It also managed to cut cross-city commute times more than half. In 1949, the Convention on Road Traffic and the Protocol on Road Signs and Signals was adopted in Geneva. While a mouthful to say, this agreement set the standard for the layout of the traffic light as we know it today and helped to usher in computer control systems, which came on the scene in the early 1950s and are the most prevalent way traffic is managed today. Now, I can see the wheels turning in your head. At this point, you're saying, "But Molly, how does a computer know when I pull up to a red light that it needs to turn green and let me go through?" Good question. There are actually multiple methods that can be used independently or in combination to know when an automobile has reached a traffic light or has entered the turn lane and needs a signal to change. These include induction loops, microwave radar, cameras, lasers, and even rubber hose filled with air. Currently, the most common and most reliable of these methods has to be the induction loop. This is a coil of wire that has been embedded into the road's surface that, once energized by a flow of electrical current, creates a measurable magnetic field. Once an automobile stops within this field, the steel of the automobile causes changes with the strength of the magnetic field, letting the system know an automobile is present, and triggers the circuitry of the traffic system to run through its light-changing cycle. These are slowly being overtaken in many locations by microwave radar detectors because that system requires a less intrusive means of installation and the cost is much less for maintenance and operations. They also have the added benefit of being above ground and can detect movement as slow as 3 miles per hour, making them more suitable for bicycle and pedestrian traffic. Something you might not have realized is the size of modern lights. Until recently, each of the colored lenses were 8 inches in diameter, or about the size of a standard dinner plate. This means that the overall dimensions of the standard 3-signal light is 30 inches tall, 9.5 inches wide, and 6 inches deep. On average, these weigh between 15 and 50 pounds. Newer models using 12-inch lenses are 42 inches tall, 13.5 inches wide, and 8 inches deep. The average person's head can easily fit in between the sun cowl covering the lenses without their head touching any part of it. Now that we know a bit more about them, how can it actually be beneficial? Outside of the immediate safety aspect, of course. That's something that Silicon Valley has been working on for some time, and they've come up with several possibilities. One of the answers is, of course, the self-driving car. While a truly fully autonomous car is still a ways off, the development of artificial intelligence for their use has trickled over to the traffic light systems. One of the companies on the brink of taking over the market, so to speak, is Surtrack. Their system uses all of the methods I've mentioned earlier, plus sensor systems they have invented that distribute information between them so that the AI system can manage the flow of traffic in real time, with the traffic that's actually on the road and not what's predicted based on the time of day or the weather. So far, their systems, which are installed in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, are reducing travel time by 26% and stopping cars 30% less often, helping reduce carbon emissions. While I didn't find details on their own testing, I did find that the U.S. Department of Energy estimates 30 million tons of carbon dioxide is released annually due to idling cars. So this would be a fantastic boost to cleaning up the environment. So while we all complain about getting stopped by traffic lights, they do serve a purpose, keeping us safe and in regulating commute times. But what happens if you decide to take a chance and run a red light, other than the risk of causing an accident, of course? Well, even though there are international agreements on their design and colors, there are no universal agreement as to the penalty for violating the law if you are caught. In every state you visit, you must adhere to the law as put forth by that state's legislator and Department of Transportation, so they actually vary quite a bit. In Michigan, a ticket could cost you $100, court cost, and 2 demerit points, while in California, a ticket could cost you $490. I say err on the side of caution and make sure you come to a full stop every time. Oh, and by the way, yellow does not mean zoom on through. Trippers, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, but know what I've relayed to you is just me barely scraping the surface on the history and stories surrounding their evolution.
Wow, thanks for that, Molly. I had no idea about any of that, and that was way more interesting than... Well, never mind. We just won't talk about that.
It was definitely enlightening. Now I will be looking to see if I can tell which system is in use every time I have to stop.
Well, that is all the time we have for in this episode of the Road Tripping Podcast. But if you liked it and want to hear more, please subscribe to the show feed and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast directory. The more positive reviews we receive, the more trippers will be able to find us and the faster we'll grow, thus being able to bring you new content. As always, until next we meet, stay safe, trippers.